There is Herman Caicedo. Herman, how are you, my man?
Good, hot. Really good.
I can imagine now. Herman, you are down in Miami, correct?
That's correct, yeah. Absolutely. 100 degrees and 100 humidity.
Well, first of all, Herman, tell us about, I know that it is, rather difficult times in our world with the coronavirus and everything else, but, how are you and your family and your fighters doing? Is everyone safe and okay during this time?
Thank you for asking. Yeah, we're doing well. The family as well. They've been home since March, like everybody else around the country, obviously, and even around the world.
Now, Herman, we lost you a little bit when you were answering that question, but, everyone's okay from what it sounds like. And I know that these are, difficult times for many of us. But, can you go ahead and once again, everyone's okay, your family and fighters and everybody?
Yeah, everybody's okay, healthy, and, the fighters are fine. Like I said earlier, that we have a situation here in this gym where, we can live here, and that's what we've been doing, including myself. So, we're being tested twice a week, Mondays and Thursdays, and so far every result has been negative. It's a very private gym, so it's not open to the public. It's not a gym for, people off the street to come in. There's literally no signs advertising to come here. So, you're here because you're supposed to be here, and that makes it, a little bit easier in this scenario as far as being able to continue training. So the fighters that were here and the fighters that were already in training haven't really skipped a beat other than just not having a fight to go perform. But as far as our training, we really haven't skipped anything because I chose to stay here with them so that I can, obviously, keep them, up to speed as far as their training is concerned.
Now, Herman, who is down there with you in your gym? I spoke with Michel Rivera a couple weeks ago here on Time Out, and I know that he's down there, but I know you have a variety of different fighters, but can you tell us about, what other fighters are down there with you?
Yeah, I have Carlos Negron, a heavyweight, who just recently came off a very good win, right? A great win, and that was literally the last fight that we had. So after
yeah, you and I both.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. So he's here. Juan Carlos Payano is here, living here, because he was also training for a fight, for an April fight. So, he just stayed, so that he's got children at home, and he didn't want to jeopardize that. So he stayed. Michel Rivera also is a fantastic lightweight, and Jamie Arboleda, who obviously lives here. We got a African by the name of Habib Ahmed from Ghana, and he's fantastic. He lost to Humberto Ramirez, his only loss at super middleweight. So since then he's moved down to middleweight, which is his real weight. And I believe another heavyweight, Edwin Alvarez, 5-0, and Cassius Chaney, another heavyweight, 18-0. So that's my group here right now. As far as everybody else, Lewis is training also. But he has an individual time on his own. So when he comes in, he's on his own. He's by himself. He also participates in the tests. So, he's also very careful because of his daughter's scenario. So he's very, very careful. Yeah. He's literally walking on eggshells. And, at the end of the day, it's the new normal, right? That's what everybody says. So, we're making the best of it. It's not great, but we're making the best of it because it makes it difficult for sparring. All the parks are closed, so you got to kind of make up your own tracks, and you got to kind of improvise, swimming pools. So it just makes it a little harder,
Herman, when it comes to, I know you are big on the testing, that you do it twice a week. Is that something that you set up on your own? What made you, I think that testing is obviously paramount when it comes to training prize fighters, but is that something that you thought of? Is it something that collectively you talked to the guys about? How did you come to that, conclusion that we want to test twice a week? And you've been very successful in doing that.
Before we did that, I can't take that particular credit about taking twice a week. That was actually PBC that came up with that scenario for this particular camp because of what it is. It's a camp with a lot of fighters here, and a lot of them are PBC fighters, and they're going to fight, quote unquote, shortly. So they didn't want to take any chances. So they took over the testing of what I was already doing. So that's how that came about. But the initial testing was, our doctor, our team doctor, Dr. Richard Hill, and he has access to the test. He's testing, now currently over 150 people a day, he says, in his practice. And we're just, included in his regimen now that he does, every day in his office. He sends a nurse to us twice a week. And even before PBC, he was sending somebody to us. And so far we've been negative. We've been lucky and I think mainly not lucky. I think it's because we've been following protocol, because we haven't been, the guys have been taking it very seriously. I'm very serious about it. I have, my wife at home who has pre-existing condition, and she can't obviously even, come close to getting the virus. So that's why I chose to stay. And second reason, was the guys here. I wasn't going to just lock them up and then see them when I see them. Especially in the beginning. In the beginning, it was really like crazy, right? So, it was what do you do? And no one really knew what to do. So in the beginning, it was almost like I'm not going to abandon ship. Now more so, I think it's because it's, rolling a little bit and some fights are scheduled. So I'm here. I've been here. So I'm just going to finish it out,
I think it's admirable, Herman, that, you are, you're making the sacrifice of being away from your wife, to be with your guys. And that's one thing that I've always noticed about you, is that you are so in tune with your individual fighters. And I feel that it's, I talked to Michel Rivera, and he told me it's more than just trainer to fighter. He goes, he almost looks at you like a father figure. And that's not the first fighter that you've had in which I've heard that from.
Yeah. No, it just comes out. It's not, it's not planned. It's not, I want to win. I want to win. And sometimes I want to win more than they want to win. And, with that being said, you have to dot all the I's and cross all the T's and make sure that, it's being done the right way. So to do that, you have to really get on board like a father with a child, like a mother with a child. You can't just assume they're going to do and, do the right things outside of what you can control, which is their training. So that's a lot of, the big reason why I went with a camp like this where I can house the fight. It's a huge sacrifice financially. And of course now, physically, like you said, just being away from my family. But, at the end of the day, it's a sacrifice that if we all make, then, I think the outcome, will speak for itself eventually, with majors. It came up short with Ortiz twice, with Wilder, but not for lack of trying, obviously. But, at the end of the day, it was the work, and Lewis was a tenant here in the past until he obviously brought his family. So he believes in the sacrifice, and all these guys buy in. And when they buy in and they give you their 100%, how can you not do more? How can, as the coach who's preaching something, not show more and do more? But again, it is a sacrifice, and it's not for everybody. Not every coach could probably, want to do this or, be willing to do this. It's one of those things that, you have to just know that you're going to go into, and, the outcome will eventually start showing. I've been doing this 27 years, and it's been a while, so it's not, and every good coach will tell you that, that it doesn't come overnight. It's going to take time.
Well, you certainly have put in the time, because for those that don't know, you actually started off working under the guidance of Angelo Dundee. And tell us about what you were able to take away from the trainer of Muhammad Ali and being around there. And it's not like you started off even as an assistant trainer. In terms of doing my research behind you, you cleaned up the gym, you swept the gym. I mean, you literally came from the bottom, and now in terms of what you're able to do, I think being one of the most undervalued trainers in all of boxing.
Thank you. Yeah, no, my start in boxing was almost accidental. My background is martial arts, and I've been doing martial arts since I was 6 years old. And until I transitioned into professional boxing full time, I didn't stop with martial arts, and I was kickboxing. So, what I wanted to do early on at like 19, 20, I owned and operated a martial arts gym and kickboxing school, and I wanted to make sure that what I was teaching my fighters, on the stand-up game was correct. Because kickboxing was what I was teaching, but there was a boxing part of it that I wasn't 100% sure of. So I started volunteering in gyms, and I ended up in Angelo's gym just by sheer coincidence because it was just closer to my house. Another gym owner recommended that one. I walked in and, I just offered my services point blank, like for no money, nothing, just let me just come in and be a fly on the wall. And of course, today I can understand how that sounds. If someone were to walk into my gym and ask me that, I'd throw them out, but Angelo was much more receptive, and he said, look, you're never going to touch a fighter until, you show me what I need to see. And in the meantime, the place needs cleaning. And I did that for over a year until little by little, he grew to trust and saw that I had skills in what I was doing. And we were together 8 years. And what I learned overall the most there was I was alongside another great trainer, Louis Lagerman, for that whole time until I think it was 2002, the last professional fight. Maybe Angelo really worked with a fighter that he really had. I know he kind of serviced his name out a little bit after that, but like actual gym, it was like maybe 2002, is the corner work. How important the corner work is, the motivation, the psychology behind the what's happening in the corner. It's different from what's happening in the training, so you can be a great coach and a bad corner man, and you don't get the results all the time that you need to get. So I think I really learned and picked up on just how to really be a very good, competent, relaxed corner man, not to panic. Things are going to happen, and you just got to take them, round by round, sometimes minute by minute. And that was really the most, alongside of, just obviously training things that you pick up with, to me, one of the best. And that was what I'll never forget, just being able to speak with him after the training and sit down with him for an hour or two and pick his brain,
Well, you actually led Shannon Briggs to the heavyweight championship of the world when he defeated Sergey Lahovich.
Yeah.
What was that experience like for you, with you and Shannon working together, and then to say that on that night you were the trainer for the heavyweight champion of the world? Well,
Shannon and I have a great relationship, love him to death. We were together nearly 10 years. And unfortunately on that night it was bittersweet because I was very ill and I wasn't at the fight. But we obviously trained for the fight and we did everything for the fight. And it was a great culmination of everything that he had sacrificed and proved, because he's always obviously, to me, very underrated with what he could have done. It was a phenomenal heavyweight in his era, and was just very young and got thrown into big fights and big names right away, and he had the charisma to back it up. So it was almost like he was supposed to be there when really he should have been maybe a few years held back a little bit. But it worked out, no doubt, because he won the championship twice. So it was definitely great. But yeah, it was definitely bittersweet. I mean, ill and all, I was very excited. I nearly hit the roof, when we won. I knew it always took one punch. Shannon's always one punch away from ending any fight. Always. So it was exciting, and well-deserved, because he's a hard worker, love his family, kids, his wife, everybody, a family man, I mean, it's phenomenal for that particular night to transition and for Shannon to win, and prove a lot of naysayers, that he couldn't do it. Because if you remember, in that particular moment, Sergey was the top dog in the heavyweight business, beating Lamont Brewster and, doing, so it wasn't like, it was an easy win. It was no, Sergey was top rated. He was the man to beat, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about another heavyweight, Luis King Kong Ortiz. His only two losses coming at the hands of former heavyweight champion of the world, Deontay Wilder. When you think about both fights, Herman, it seemed like, you guys, we're having success in both fights. But again, when you have a puncher like Deontay Wilder, it's almost like you have to pitch a perfect game throughout the course of those 36 minutes. But, can you tell us about what the status of Luis Ortiz is? Are there any names that have popped up that he might venture into the ring against?
Well, yeah, there's been a few names, but, they backed out or said they needed, a tune-up fight or whatever. There's been, I think Andy Ruiz was mentioned, Dominic Brazil, and a few others, but those are the two that I can remember right now. I know Andy said he wanted a tune-up fight. At least that's what was told to me. I didn't hear it directly from his mouth. But that fight's not being spoken about anymore. And, it doesn't change. It's still nobody wanting to fight him. And for at this particular point in time, it can't be because there's no upside to it. Lewis made a name for himself. He is who he is, and you can definitely, ride a big payday on Lewis now. He sells good. He's definitely watched, on all the lead-ups to both fights, and it was great viewerships and ratings in both fights. So there's no excuse at that point now for no one to fight him, other than he's just a dangerous, slick southpaw who can punch. That's probably a big excuse not to fight him, But he's training. Like I said, he's training. He comes in. I kind of give him his own time for that reason, so that he feels a little bit safer with what's happening now, because he really does love to be in here with everybody. So to be alone, it's kind of like a little depressing for him, because he likes to be here with at least some of the guys that he works with and trains with, because he's a big joker, like most every fighter, they're all got a good sense of humor. So, it's him and I, and our conditioning and assistant coach, Yuka, who comes from Vegas every week to work with him, is just the three of us, each other's jokes after a week, and then it's just work, so.
Herman, do you ever get, tired of the grind and everything else? Because training camps, can be a lengthy process, and it's very demanding on the body. I remember talking with you about a year ago when you had a heavyweight, and, you told me that your shoulders hurt, your elbows hurt. I mean, holding pads and doing what you do, people just see you on fight night instructing the guys in, how to do this or being a motivator. But in reality, you hold the mitts with the guys. You're the ones absorbing these punches, which is something that I'm not jealous of whatsoever. But, even at your age and being in the game for almost 3 decades, what is that physical toll like on your body? And educate our viewers as to, how difficult it truly is.
Well, it's very difficult. It's a big physical toll, and everyone that is out there that is coaching and is working mitts and has a big punching heavyweight, or even has a group of fighters that you got to work, through the mitts and the body shields and different things like that. And I am a very hands-on coach. I'm not, behind the ropes only, on the ring, apron, yelling. I'm a very hands-on coach. So, and I guess maybe from my background, because, I kickboxed, I fought a little bit, and my martial arts, and so I felt that that's the best way to teach, is to show, and it's to just really get in there and sweat and bleed and be there with them. So that's going to limit me, obviously, as I get older. I'm 50 years old now, but, the older I get, I figure I'm not going to be able to do it for too much longer. Maybe, I don't know. I feel okay now, but yeah, in the morning, everything hurts. It's rolling out of bed. You're not jumping out of bed. You're going to roll out of bed, and I got to warm everything up. And after, I don't know, 5-10 minutes in the gym, it's so hot in here that it's actually good for all these things that hurt. So, and it's humid, so it's well for the joints and all my aching bones. But it does hurt. Listen, I've had broken ribs from Shannon. Broke a couple of my ribs on both sides, working the shield. He's the one basically who destroyed my hands, because I was exclusive to him for close to 10 years, and that boy can punch. Lewis is not doing any better, because I went from a powerful right-handed puncher to a powerful left-handed puncher. So now you're catching all the power hands on the opposite side. It's not fun, but it's definitely, the job, and it's what I signed up for. And I know that, 100% it's what it is. And I'm happy when I'm doing it. I'm happy when I'm actually in that groove. I'm not happy if I'm sitting down. I'm not happy, if I'm not, sweating with them and working with them. It's okay for now. Check with me in 10 years. Right. Now,
Herman, I'm going to go ahead and, have a couple of rapid fire questions your way. Who would you like to see Luis Ortiz fight next? If you had, if you were the matchmaker and you could go ahead and really make a fight become a reality with Luis Ortiz, who would you like to see him fight next?
Well, any of the champions first, obviously, Fury, Joshua, Any of these guys in the top 5, if it's not the champions, the top guys. Lewis definitely wants to fight the top guys. He doesn't want to run from any of the guys. And that's what I would like to see. So it's a short list, but, I think he's proven himself that he belongs. I think he's proven himself that it wasn't a fluke, who he was, where he was, and how he got there. It's still to this day, besides Fury in his last fight with Wilder, nobody had done to Wilder what Lewis was able to do in the course of 17, 18 rounds that they fought to Wilder. Nearly knock him out in the first fight, just run out of steam, run out of gas, and in the first fight, dominate every round until he got stopped. So, in those 17 rounds, maybe Lewis lost half a handful, 3-4 rounds, so it took Fury, who did a phenomenal fight, and maybe there was something wrong with Wilder, who knows, but definitely I think Lewis belongs in those top 5 guys and fight any of those guys.
Getting to the heavyweight division, elaborating it more, do you think that Deontay Wilder can claim his heavyweight championship of the world, when he fights Tyson Fury a third time? I mean, you have been in the corner against Deontay Wilder for almost 20 rounds now.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. Listen, Fury better not sleep on him at all. He better do exactly what he did in the first fight and maybe even make some adjustments to that, because it's not going to be the same Wilder when he fights him in the second fight. He's going to make some adjustments. He's young in let's say the amount of time he has as a professional boxer. I've never made fun of his what everyone made fun of, his crazy style, because it was effective and he was knocking everybody out. And I knew that it was a dangerous fight. Both times that there were dangerous fights. But without a doubt, 100% he can win this fight. It's not going to be easy for him either. He's going to have to make some serious adjustments. And if, in fact, there was something that ailed him coming in there and he can make those corrections and get rid of all those speed bumps that happened, then, yeah, absolutely. He's got a massive missile. It's not even a punch. It's a missile. It should be outlawed.
Wow. Yeah. Well, also, Herman, getting back to your fighters, let's talk about Michel Rivera and also Jaime Arboleda. Who would you like to see Michel Rivera go up against? Are there names that have been brought about? I know that he is, he's a colorful personality. He has his sense of style in the ring when it comes to his attire and also as he fights. But, Jaime Arboleda is another one. So Rivera and Arboleda, I think, are guys who can really start to crack into the attention of the general sports fan. Yeah, I expect for both of those fighters, 2 complete different styles. And the very good fighters, both of them. But I expect really, really big things and great things for Michel. He is very talented, a phenomenal boxer, a good puncher also, very naturally skilled, instinctively, skilled. It's a lot of the stuff is now being trained, but in our first fight together, it was a lot of instinct and it was a lot of just, he's a student of the game. He watches a lot of film. He watches old school boxing. He researches. He's, the new age kid coming up on the computer, and that's all he's doing is boxing, watching boxing and studying and so forth. So it makes it easy to train him because of some of these things that you can now add as homework to what you're doing with him. But I expect great things. I'd love to see him fight anybody. I've told his promoters text me a couple times, so who do you think about? And I text them back. You've asked me this already. Anybody. And this is how I feel. I said, anybody you like, from champion down, pick him. It doesn't matter. And I feel that confident about him because he's that confident about himself and he puts in the work. He's been here already close to a year, living in the gym, putting in the sacrifice. He's 22 years old. That's unheard of for a 22-year-old to just give up friends, family, everything, lock himself in a bedroom. It's not the Hilton here. By far, it's not the Hilton, but it is obviously nice enough to say this is home for whatever time being you're going to be here, right? I built this facility with that in mind, thinking if I were to live here, how would I want to live here? So it is a nice facility, but it's not the Hilton either way, and it's not home, and it's not your 22-year-old friends and girlfriends, So I expect great things from him. His promoter, Samson Lekowitz, is a phenomenal promoter, finds gems, and I think he found another one with Michel. Jamie. What about Jaime? Jaime Arboleda as well.
Jamie is a rugged, tough slugger. He just had a war with Jason Velez. It was a 12-round war. It was a fight that was very, very, very grueling, and one that I don't want to see him in again like that. And I told him after the fight, you can't have too many of those, because 2 or 3 max, and that's it. You're washed up. Your career's over by then. I mean, you'll have fights, but you can't pull that out of a hat every time like that. So we're going to make some adjustments after that fight. I saw things that we could do better, but again, I expect good things from him also, but a complete different style. He's a very, very polished, fundamental, come forward, behind a jab, head movement, fighter. Although they say Michel resembles Trinidad with his appearance and so forth, I've heard that, about Michel Rivera. Jamie resembles him in the fight style. He has similar attributes to a Trinidad, that resemble him. And that I expect really good things at 130 pounds. He's a big 130-pounder, as Jamie's a big 135er. Almost 6 foot, Michel is at 135 pounds, which is not, there's a lot of kids that are that tall now, I think, at 130, 135 pounds. But he's very strong, so we don't spar anybody under 147 pounds. So, great things. I'm very happy with those 2 guys, both Samson fighters. And
both PBC fighters as well, that fight fighters, on Premier Boxing Champions telecast.
Yeah, so I think that definitely those 2 guys are going to be blessed, with great things hopefully next year, and you'll know their names soon enough, because they're exciting fighters. They're very talented fighters, and they're putting in the work. They're putting in the work, so that's a big thing.
Herman, you've been around boxing and have seen pretty much anything and everything, but you train fighters that compete under the Premier Boxing Champions banner. Can you give me your thoughts on what PBC's been able to do for boxing and the mastermind behind it, that being Al Heyman, and who has done so much for so many people within this industry? Well,
PBC, yes, for one, is doing phenomenal things with the sport and in the sport for the past few years or longer. And although I don't know Al personally, he has obviously, through the representative that I deal with, which is Louis DeCubas Jr., has said and mentioned and done things that acknowledge that he knows of the existence of what we're doing here. So, as far as what he's doing for the sport, he's keeping fighters busy. He's keeping fighters active. He's made fighters a lot of money, a ton of money. And he's a pro fighter, network / advisor. He's really a pro fighter guy, fighter first. And with that mentality, it's hard not to admire and to really, be honored to be a part of that, because most of us here in this level where I am, which is the training level, and if we're winning and we want to win and continue winning, we're pro fighters. We're pro fighter first. And that's sounds easy to say, but it's sometimes difficult, and you'll run into scenarios where it doesn't work that way, and then you don't get the same results. And I think that's why PBC is getting those results, is because of that, because they are pro fighters and they want these guys to succeed. And if you can continue to do that like he is, and he has great talent, and he has the platforms to do it and the networks to air it, it's going to be great for boxing. And it has been. It's proven. It's in the pudding right there. It's proof in your face. It's not like it's, we still have to question it. I think it's a great thing. And in the beginning, I was lucky enough to be